All right, and welcome into the Rocky Top Insider postgame show. Tennessee defeats Akron by a score of 63-6 right here in Neyland Stadium, week 3 of college football action. And Ryan, Schumpert, Rick Butler, Ryan, Tennessee had nearly 700 yards of offense today against the Zips. The Zips didn't provide them too much of a challenge, and
no.
I think we pretty much expected that going into it, but nonetheless, 700 yards of offense is always going to be impressive, and 63 points as well. What was your biggest takeaway from Tennessee's offense today?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was business as usual. I think maybe Jabari Small went down there early. We'll get into a little bit more of that going on. But I thought Jalen Hyatt and Dylan Sampson both ran the ball really well. I think Jalen Hyatt continues to me to look like the most talented running back on Tennessee's roster. I don't know if he's the best one. He certainly, his ball control was a big topic of conversation this week. He needs to be better with that. No fumbles tonight.
Yeah.
But he looked really good. And then again, kind of a similar thing to the Ball State game. Tennessee, opening drive of the game, they missed a field goal from there, touchdowns, and I think it was all 6 drives that Hendon Hooker and the starting offense were in. So kind of another reminder, and this is a really bad MAC team. If a Jeremy Pruitt team played this MAC team, I'm sure Tennessee would have won easily. But again, it kind of goes back to that point we've talked about a lot in the last 2 years in games like this, where Josh Heupel's scheme, Josh Heupel's offense, you get these mid-major teams come to town, they just don't have the athletes to compete, and Tennessee's able to put it on early and get tons of bench guys, a lot of snaps in the second half.
It's overwhelming to some of these teams.
It is.
And you look around college football as well. I mean, even a Missouri State, right, gave top 10 Arkansas a run for their money today.
That's an FCS team, too.
Yeah, so you can see these things happening around college football, but again, Tennessee pulls out the, what is this, 57-point win, I believe, against Akron. Hey, one offensive player that I wanted to mention was Jalen Hyatt. Just an unbelievable day for him. I think he finishes with five receptions on 5 targets, 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. You can really tell that him and Hendon Hooker had a good connection going on. And with the injury, which again, like you're saying, we will get into soon to Cedric Tillman during the game. Man, you could tell that Hooker was certainly looking for Hyatt, and Hyatt, he gave him the best he had and scored 2 touchdowns on it.
He did. He had another long catch on that first drive of the second half, which was the last one the starters were in. But he had career highs in touchdowns and in yards in the first half. And again, not the best opponent, but he played really well. He had the long touchdown over here, and then the slant route for a touchdown, I believe, on 3rd down. I'm not sure. I've seen a slant easier completed for a big game since Jeremy Pruitt was roaming the sidelines. And that Tennessee defense couldn't stop a slant that saved their life a couple years ago. I mean, it was 3rd and 7, slot receiver, quick slant, very basic play call. I don't think Jalen Hyatt got touched on the play as he ran in for a long touchdown. So you're right, he had a big game, and another guy that really each week has just gotten a little bit better, and certainly is starting to kind of come into his own as he gets into what was expected to be a breakout season for him. Yeah,
absolutely. And then one last note before we kind of start to wrap this thing up. Tennessee did have a couple of big injuries throughout the game tonight. Now, well, first and foremost, it was running back Jabari Small goes down on the second play from scrimmage.
Yeah.
Then just a little bit later, sometime in the second quarter, Cedric Tillman also goes down. He takes a couple of shots really in that first half, really shaken up throughout. Now, it doesn't necessarily seem like there is a lot of concern for those 2 injuries moving forward. We did not get anything definitive from Coach Josh Heupel after the game today. That's something that we will still monitor and be following along at RockyTopInsider.com. But what's your kind of biggest takeaway right there with those 2 guys going down in the first half, especially with the talented team like Florida on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to need both those guys, especially Tillman. And Small's injury, I worry less about. He was pretty quick out of the pit. He was on a stationary bike. He kept his pads on the full game. It felt like one. If he took that hit, that type of injury, second play next week's game, he would have came back in.
Yeah.
Tillman's, to me, is a little bit more of a question mark. He gets hit low. He immediately reached for that knee. He was down on the ground for a decent bit of time, did walk off on his own power, and it was a lot of the same. I think Heupel said at halftime to the reporters to the sideline reporter, he felt pretty good about it. Tillman said the same thing to the sideline reporter, didn't think it was serious. But we'll see. That's one that will be a wait and see. Looked a little bit worse, and certainly seemed like Tennessee took exception to a couple of the low hits that Akron hit on Tillman, and then a handful of them on Hendon Hooker as well.
That was quite the chippy game. Even Josh Heupel said, hey, this is one of the most chippy games that I've played in my career. and certainly while we've been here at Tennessee.
Yeah, he did, and I thought maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not, but Tennessee threw the ball down the field with their backups in the second half. We said that going into this game, I think we said on the podcast on Wednesday, and we talked about the spread a little bit. I kind of liked Akron in the spread, trap game for Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee would get the backups in. Tennessee wouldn't be looking to run up the score. I don't know if Tennessee would run up the score or not. I don't want to put that accusation out there. I'm just saying Tennessee threw the ball down the field an awful lot in the second half once Joe Milton got in the game. They certainly, the chippiness didn't wear down when the backups got in. The chippiness didn't even wear down once the game was over. So that was certainly kind of an interesting element to a 63-6 blowout game that didn't have a whole lot of entertainment for a good bit of the game.
1 week from today, we will be right back.
Before the storm.
We'll be right back on this field breaking down an electric Tennessee-Florida matchup. So until then, hey, make sure you're following along with Rocky Top Insider on all the different social medias over at RockyTopInsider.com. But also you can check out at Rocky Top Insider on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. For Ryan Schumpert, you can go and follow him at rshump00. I am Rick Butler at Rick_Butler on Twitter. We will see you next week. You've been listening to the RTI Instant Reaction postgame show.